Hey everybody, welcome back to CES 2021 with CNET. We're here back again to crack open another device like we do every year. We've already cracked open just now the iPhone 12, and now we're back with Tech Republic's Bill Detwiler to crack open another device. So Bill, why don't you talk about what's next?
Yeah, so next we thought we'd switch things up a little bit. We did an iPhone. Now we've got an Apple device. Now we've got a Microsoft device, right? So we wanted to give both camps a little bit of equal airtime here. We've got an Xbox Series S, not a Series X. You can't find one of those. So we're gonna, this is the all digital version of the next gen console. We're going to take it apart. We're going to see how much it's like a computer inside. And I've never taken one of these apart, so this should be a little bit of an adventure.
This is great. You hadn't taken apart the iPhone 12 either. And so
Nope.
people really got a chance to see you in action doing your thing, doing what you do, going at one of these devices, figuring out how do I get there? How do I get in without breaking this device and turn it into something where we can get a look inside and learn about the device. And you do all of these devices to help professionals learn about what they can do if they have to repair something like this. In this case, if it was a business, if they had one of these, it would be typically in a game room or something like that. They might have to repair a company lounge, one of these items in the lounge. But what we can say about the S is, we don't have the X, which of course is the flagship device, costs $500. The S is the step down, does not have the full sort of 8K video option, but it is only $300. It's much more approachable. This is one of the ones that our editors like Dan Ackerman and others at CNET often recommend for people that are looking to get into the next gen game, because it doesn't cost as much. It's easier to find. And for most people, this device, they're going to be really happy with.
Yeah, and I'm really happy that I was able to get this thing open so easily.
You've
Microsoft
already
did
got it
something really
open.
nice. Yeah, I've already got
Yeah.
it open here. I was lucky enough on the back. I'll see if I can hold this up. There are two little screw holes here that are covered with white pieces of adhesive plastic that have some adhesive on the back of them. And it just had some Torx. They seem to be like Torx number 8 screws on the back that came out pretty easily. And I was able to just slide up on the bottom here and lift it off, and we can kind of get inside of it.
Right
I
there.
like that. I really like being able to sort of get into these types of devices that are more PC-like, that have parts that are built to be replaced, like that, and not having to hunt and peck and figure out how to get inside. Made it pretty simple. It does look like on the inside here, I'll hold this up for the big camera, or maybe the small camera. I'll rotate it this way a little bit. And you can see there are a bunch of screws that are green here. We're going to remove these. I suspect that those are the ones that actually allow us to remove the internal assembly compared to the ones that are just regular kind of metal covered, unpainted. But these green ones, I suspect, go all the way through. Now, I think from looking at them, yeah, the Torx T8 could go, but since there are so many of them and we're limited time, I'm going to use a drill here, a cordless drill. I don't recommend you do this. If you were doing it at home on
Yeah.
your own Xbox, you use a screwdriver. But we're gonna break out the drill here and remove it.
You're going to try to pop them out a little quicker.
Yeah, we're gonna do it a little quicker. I didn't
Do this on
pre-make
TV.
this like a cooking show. Sometimes we do that for these in the interest of time. But no, I didn't pre-remove
This
these
is
screws.
live.
Now, unlike
This is live in every
live,
sense. Yeah.
unlike the iPhone 12, so you can see how long the screws are. They have the threads
Wow.
maybe about a third of the way up on the screw. So they're holding this large internal, the body that's inside here into this plastic outer shell. We're going to remove a bunch of these. You can see me pull them out.
Yeah.
All right. And then I'm going to see if this thing comes out or if it comes off. Okay. Well, it looks like pretty easily. Yeah, there we go. I'm gonna do this very carefully because one of the things that you always want to watch for, that if you haven't done this before, you don't know if there's any little cables, there's wires, something that's connecting, a button. In this case, it wasn't, which is great. We just have our two halves, the outer plastic shell. You've got a power button, I guess, and an eject button here, or what the button that is. When there's no media on this, or media, so. But you've got the buttons on the front here. You've got the little contacts on the back. We're going to set this to the side, and we can kind of get our first look a little bit at what's inside a Series S. Got a great big cooling fan right here. I think it's probably about the same size as the fans on the previous, the digital version of the previous Xbox. You can see, on the back, we still have this plastic piece here. See if we can, how we remove that. I don't want to force it. I can't tell whether it snaps on or it has some type of, there's screws that hold it on. So we'll hold off on that for a second. I do want to talk though about on the front here, you can see the boards for the various connectors. You got a USB connector here, the what looks like, the button contacts are actually here, LED lights are there. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to remove them and see how they're actually attached. Could be that they're attached. See if the same, nope. So now we have to go back to a smaller size screwdriver, back to the smaller size Torx T8 here.
The old-fashioned way, as it were.
Yep.
Very good. So as I mentioned, Bill, earlier, one of the first things that you cracked open back in 2006, 15 years ago now, was actually one of the Xbox 360s, if I remember right. And again, this started this idea of cracking things open to learn how to repair things, also to learn from them. Tech Republic's audience, where you're the editor-in-chief, Tech Republic's audience is an audience of professionals, of engineers, of software developers, of IT support professionals, CIOs. And so you all have done this for a long time to help all those folks better understand the technology, as well as learn how to repair it if it's something that that they have, not just this specific device, which, like we said, they might have in a in a lounge or a game room or something, but also by learning how you got this one open can help them understand just the process of getting technology open to repair it in general.
Yep. All right, we've got a third card that I've been able to remove from the side here. It has a chip on the outside. I wouldn't be surprised. I can't see the writing. They're awfully small. Okay, so they both have MAC addresses on them, it looks like. So I'm assuming these are wireless transmitters on the cards here. What I really like about these cards, though, no wires. They're actually connecting to whatever system board, motherboard, what have you, inside via these connectors. And I don't really like that. That's a really nice touch, being able to just take out a couple screws and pop them off without worrying about damaging those connectors. Like obviously in the iPhone, if you watch the previous segment, these things are tiny, little small things that can very easily just be damaged and cut and broken. It's going to take some force. You shouldn't jam this, but it's going to take some force to break it. So that's good. Also, now it looks like we can go ahead and remove the screws here. I don't really see a way to pop off this piece of plastic from the back, so I'm going to leave it there for now. It's probably just connected with, physical snaps, but I don't like forcing things if I don't have to. So we're going to go ahead and remove these screws here from the top, see if we can't lift it off and see what happens.
That's one of the general lessons, from having watched you do this for many years, Bill, is that, you are incredibly patient with these things and you don't force it. One of the ways that people break things when they're opening them up like this is they tend to force it, put too much pressure, try to hit the trying to hit the thing that's going to open it up. And that's when you do literally crack something open. And then it's very difficult to either get back together in working order, or you essentially can ruin a device, even one as large as this one. And that's what you don't want to do. Your mission in this is to get these things to where you can put them back together in working order.
Yeah, we never want to destroy the devices. It's not my thing. I do love putting devices in crushers or blenders. I think one year we tried to crush something at CES. We tried to crush something under one of the giant Ferris wheels. We did some torture tests. We froze an iPad in a block of ice, and then eventually it still worked, so we wound up dropping it from a ladder. That was a lot of fun. But I generally try not to break the thing we're going to take apart. We did, we're talking about this TV that we had to take apart last year. We did break that. Because we wanted to see the different layers of the screen, and there was a purpose, a method behind our madness. So here I've removed this part of the metal cover, this half of the inner cover here, and we have exposed the fan. Again, a separate cooling fan, not unlike what you would see in a computer, a desktop PC here, and it looks like it's connected to the motherboard down there. So I'm gonna see if I can either wiggle it out. Oh, no, it just came right off. I didn't even have to use the pliers. Came right off. Again, when you're taking these things apart, you want to be very careful not to yank the wires, separate it from the end of the connector here. This fan has, what we got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blades on it there. And under the fan, as one would expect, a fairly large heatsink there. So you've got little fins here.
Big time.
You've got the tubes in there. So it's a pretty good heat sink, and it covers quite a bit of the board. You can see that. So it's probably covering both a variety of chips in there, helping to dissipate that heat. You also have this. And remember we were talking about the TVs. I don't know if I'll turn it over here too, to see if folks can kind of see that to the other camera.
Yep.
This black box here says PSU. This is the power supply unit. It does have, you can kind of see a little lightning bolt there on the top of it, and it talks and it shows the airflow, which way the air is going to flow through that, be pulled through it. Why we don't do TVs is because they do have power supplies sometimes in them, or capacitors in them in older TVs. They can be harmful to you. They can discharge even after sitting dormant without power for quite some time. So you definitely want to be careful around PSUs or any type of power supply unit. This one, however, is, again, I'm very impressed with the way Microsoft has assembled the device. It came apart in my hand as we were talking. All I had to do was lift it out. It appears there are 2 connectors right on the end of the, right on there that connect it to the board. I'll see if I can hold this over here up so to the camera, so we can see one of the chips underneath it with an Xbox logo, Microsoft logo on that. You can see the storage expansion port right here, some of the rest of the circuit board there, and then we're going to go ahead and see if we can't remove the heat sink, which I suspect there are 4 screws on the bottom here. So we'll pull those out and should allow the heat sink, and we can look at the chips underneath it.
Great. Nothing, an old time PC lover, people who've built their own PCs, which, people used to do back in the day. Some people still do now. They love the idea of a good heat sink, because that means you can overclock or, rev up the performance on your computer and then make it run faster, essentially. So, you have less that you're waiting on. Not as much of a problem these days. Computers are generally pretty fast, and we've seen machines like the Apple M1 MacBook Air, which has really surprised us with its performance. You can read Dan Ackerman's review on that. But it never hurts to have a good heatsink. It means you can run it faster. For example, the difference between the 13-inch MacBook Air and MacBook Pro, the 13-inch MacBook Pro, is the MacBook Pro has better cooling, which means it can take that same chip and run it a little hotter, run it a little faster, so that it has better performance, running video and all kinds of high demand applications. All right, Bill. So what are you looking at now?
So right now, what we're doing is, I'm going to try and remove this little knockout here it's on the back for the USB port. So if I can pull this off. So I've removed the screws on the back of the heatsink. Before I think remove it though, I am going to lift the motherboard out from the bottom of the internal shell here. And this is, remember what we were talking about earlier about removing this piece of white plastic that's the back of the Series S here. This is not meant to be removed. So this is
okay.
Probably cold riveted, sonic riveted somehow it is permanently attached, this piece of black plastic, to the internal metal frame. If I were to actually try and pull this off, I would break these little, turn it this way a little bit, I would break these plastic rivets there and, end up breaking this. So I'm glad I didn't force it and just try to rip it off here. You can also see, okay, so underneath, we've got our first kind of look. I'm going to set this aside, out of the way. You can see our first
another
kind
X.
of look on the underside of the motherboard. Yeah, another X. Hey, might as well be consistent with your branding, right? Even on the inside, which few people are going to see. All right, and I'm going to remove this here.
That reminded me when you first opened it there, Bill, you saw the X underneath. When you first got that first piece open, you could see even the metal design there. There was a nice big X in the middle. And then when you got to this part, you see another one. So you got to those are little nods to the engineers and enthusiasts. And so you got to appreciate that for sure.
You do, definitely. I also, again, appreciate this. So on the bottom here of the motherboard, the circuit board here, is the SSD. This is a little Western Digital SSD, and that's really neat because it's not soldered to the board. Let's see if I can hold this to the camera. And so if you wanted to replace it, if at a later time, I think the Series S comes with a, I forget how much storage it actually comes with, but you could actually, and unfortunately, this thing's really small, hard to see, so I can't tell what it is, how many gig it is. But you could replace it. You could put a new one in, provided there isn't some hardware or software protection that prevents you from doing that. And you could increase the storage. I like that. That is one of the things, as an old school PC person, I still like to be able to upgrade things. So soldered RAM is great for, soldered storage. Soldered chips are great for speed sometimes, but, for upgradability, not so much. All right, so we have we have that removed from the bottom. So the only thing kind of left actually to try and remove is the heatsink here. And I'm going to take a look and see what the best way to do this is. It doesn't appear that there's screws on the bottom, but that doesn't mean that there are. Again, I haven't done this before, so this is all new to me.
Yeah.
It does look like there's a metal shield under here. So the heatsink sits on top of the metal shielding, the EMI shielding. And there's a little bit of a copper plate here too. So, but I don't really want to damage anything.
Underneath that, Bill, is probably the big next gen CPU, GPU, right? Because that's what's being cooled by that giant heatsink. Yeah, that's what you would expect.
Yes. And so I'm going to pop these off very gently. They should come up here. They're just it's this little metal bracket appears to be, there's tension holding it in place. So I should be able to pop this off without too much trouble. Because it doesn't appear that these are standoffs. It appears they are, it's like looped on with these little with these little metal connectors. So again, trying to be very careful I don't break anything.
again, you've gotten another device open without breaking anything, without breaking any snaps, without having to do anything. And it's really because you're not forcing it. You know, you sort of test something, you see, okay, is this going to come loose? And if not, you try another spot. You know, that's one of the keys for people that do want to do some of this at home by themselves. Don't force it. You know, take your time.
Yeah.
And you got to be a little bit zen with it. And, you know, it doesn't help to have some kind of nimble fingers to help out with it. We sort of like to joke you have to have like the hands of a surgeon and the patience of a saint.
It does help a little bit. All right, so I've got two sides off. Just want to try and work the other side off here without, again, you know, you lent this to me, so I want to get it back to you in working order. There we go. Okay. It sounded and looked dramatic, but no, I didn't break anything there. It doesn't look like we broke any of the chips or the contacts. So this is just held on, it appears, with tension there, and kind of a piece of X marks the spot. And now I think I can lift it off, and we can. And
we can
get a look inside at the processor there. The big, more than likely the graphics chip. That's what's really sort of being cooled there. Because I suspect that's all that's under there. So you can see the heat sink here. It's got a little bit of thermal paste on it that helps conduct the heat away from the silicon and into the metal here. Then it can be distributed. The heat can be dissipated off there. And then we're going to try, again, this is one of those things where there's probably a way to, I could actually remove this shield. I can pull it up. I can pop it off. I'm not sure there's much under there, so I think I'm going to kind of leave it in place. So just to make sure I can kind of put this back together, it looks like that would take a little bit longer to kind of pull apart. What I do want to do is I'm going to remove a little bit of the thermal paste just so we can kind of see if there's any markings on the chip. I'm going to use plastic. This is a little plastic pry tool there. Use one of those picks that we used earlier for the iPhone cracking open, just so that we can kind of see the markings on the chip there.
Okay.
And there
very good, Bill.
Yeah, we can get a shot of that. Yeah.
We got the whole thing apart. You showed us all the insides. We learned a lot about the Xbox, and earlier, of course, about the iPhone 12 as well. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we'll see you again next year with more Cracking Open with CNET at CES.